Good evening. Welcome back to Hellhound's Late Night Spook Show here in the Horror and Metal channel. I'm Hellhound, and gonna go ahead and continue my doing my top 10 movies from each year in the 1980s, my favorite decade. So yeah, I only got a couple left to go, and today we're going to look at my top 10 from 1988, which is a great year for horror. It's hard to narrow it down to 10, so got 10 honorable mention here as well. So it's basically like a top 20, really, if you include all of them. But anyway, let's go and get started. Number 10, my 10th favorite horror movie from 1988, Maniac Cop. It's a really good movie. Has two of my favorite actors in it. Bruce Campbell, of course, from the Evil Dead trilogy, and Tom Atkins from Night of the Creeps, Halloween 3, The Fog, Bloody Valentine remake, Creepshow, several others. Yeah, they're both great in this, and as is Robert Z. Darr as the main villain, the murderous police officer, Maniac Cop. Matt Cordell, the Maniac Cop. But yeah, basically, police officers going around killing people, and they have to get to the bottom of it, find out who's doing it and why, and yeah, some pretty interesting twists and turns, and yeah, great movie. It's kind of got a little some hints of action in it too. It's kind of like a detective movie, kind of like a cop movie, but with a horror twist, with a body count, and a pretty riveting climax, and some pretty nifty kills. But yeah, I actually like the second movie, Maniac Cop 2, just a little better than this one, but it's close. But yeah, still a great movie. Maniac Cop, my 10th favorite 1988 horror film. And check out Maniac Cop 2 as well, but not so much Maniac Cop 3. You can probably skip over that one. Alright, so next, this had to be on the list. Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Yeah, in this one, Jason returns, played by Kane Hodder for the first time, and who he'd go on to play Jason in the next three movies in the series. And this time he faces off against Tina Shepard, played by Lara Park Lincoln, who has telekinesis and can move things with her mind. Yeah, she kind of like Carrie. And so yeah, Jason now has a worthy foe, a woman that can that has powerful psychic abilities. Yeah, pretty interesting. I'm quite glad they did something different this time around. I do kind of wish that Tommy Jarvis would have returned, but oh well. I really like Tina. She's a great protagonist, and pretty cool to see Jason meet his match. Somebody else who has otherworldly abilities. He can cheat death, come back from the grave over and over. She can move things with her mind. Yeah, Friday the 13th Part 7 has some pretty good kills. The Weed Whacker kill. This one was heavily censored, though, unfortunately. I think out of all the movies, this one suffered the most from being cut by the MPAA. But it's still great. I still like it a lot. It's not like one of my top favorite Jason movies, but still really good. I still enjoy this one. Check it out. Next we have Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Very fun movie, really zany, really creative, really over-the-top horror comedy with some really excessive overacting from its leads, Grant Kramer, Suzanne Snyder, and John Allen. And also has an appearance by John Vernon and Royal Dano playing an old man. Yeah, basically these extraterrestrial circus performers come to Earth to make humans wrap humans into cotton candy cocoons and put on puppet shows and do shadow puppets and have, killer men eating popcorn. Yeah, all kinds of crazy, really funny gadgets. They encase people in balloons. Yeah, it's a really, really funny movie. And it's very enjoyable. It's highly entertaining. Great soundtrack, too. I love that main theme by the Dickies. I can play that on guitar. It's pretty rockin' tune. Yeah, I bought this on VHS years ago and still watch it a lot to this day. Yeah, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Even has a opening scene that's a straight-up homage to the original The Blob from the 1950s. Yeah, great sci-fi horror comedy. Really enjoyable flick. Speaking of The Blob, my seventh favorite horror movie from 1988 is the remake of The Blob. starring Kevin Dillon and Shawnee Smith. Now, I do prefer the 50s original Steve McQueen slightly, only because it's very nostalgic for me, and I think that movie has a lot more heart, and it has this unique charm to it. However, I'll wholeheartedly admit that this one has way better special effects and better acting too. Of course, the leads this time are Kevin Dillon and Shawnee Smith. Great acting, great characters, amazing special effects. The Blob looks fantastic. And the scenes where he's dissolving the flesh off of people's bones, which is something we didn't see in the original, is very gruesome and horrific and very well done. It looks very real. I consider this, along with The Thing and The Fly, the holy trinity of 80s remakes of 50s sci-fi monster movies. And this one's just as great as the other two. Scream now while you still can. Terror has no shape. Like I said, I do prefer the 50s version slightly, but this movie's great as well, and definitely one of the better remakes out there for sure. Great movie. Alright, next we have Pumpkinhead. Directed by special effects artist Stan Winston, and starring Lance Henriksen, who's always been a favorite of mine. He's in a lot of my favorite movies. Pumpkinhead himself, the demon itself, has a great design. It looks fantastic, and I think that the costume was designed by Tom Woodruff Jr., who also wore the costume. He actually played Pumpkinhead also. Basically, the plot concerns, Lance Henriksen plays a backwoods man named Ed Harley, whose son is accidentally killed from some out-of-town bikers, and out of desperation and just thinking really quickly, letting his emotions take control of him, he, with the help of an old witch named Haggis, who lives in the middle of the woods, he summons forth a vengeance demon known as Pumpkinhead, who's buried in an ancient pumpkin patch, and Pumpkinhead begins dispatching of the teens one by one in various brutal, horrific ways. Great movie, great special effects, great makeup, great costume design, great acting by Lance Henriksen and everybody else. This movie kind of feels like a grim fairy tale. I love the gloomy forest setting and the scenes of the cemetery and stuff. It's just great. Absolutely love Pumpkinhead. I saw this years ago, shortly after it first came out, and just fell in love with it. It's one of my favorite movies to watch around Halloween, or any time, just, during the rest of the year too. Pumpkinhead, great movie. Alright, so next we have, what are we on now? 5? We're on 5 already? Huh, okay. My fifth favorite horror movie from 1988 is Phantasm II. Now, this movie's not quite as creepy or suspenseful or dark or scary as its predecessor, the original from 1978, but this one, which is also directed by Don Coscarelli, is more of a horror comedy. It ups the laughs, it ups the action especially, and it's way more entertaining than the original. I do think the original is probably technically a better film. It kind of feels like a nightmare. But this one's just so much more amusing to me, like I said. Angus Scrimm returns as the villainous tall man, back with his flying silver spheres and his little zombified munchkin creatures. Mike, this time played by James LeGros, taking over for A. Michael Baldwin from the first film, and Reggie, played by Reggie Bannister, are two badass action heroes who, arm themselves to fight back against the tall man's evil undead army and save the day from his malevolent clutches. Yeah. Phantasm II, like I said, is way more entertaining than the original, and it's just great. This movie's a blast. I absolutely love it. Definitely the best sequel in the series. Speaking of really fun, enjoyable horror comedies, next we have Night of the Demons, another one of my favorite movies to watch on Halloween. Basically a group of teens have a party in Hull House, an abandoned funeral parlor, and one by one they get possessed by demonic forces, and mayhem ensues. Lots of bloody carnage and scenes of bodies melting and all kinds of over-the-top, excessive, gory nastiness. Yeah, this movie's so much fun. This is a video store staple. I used to rent this all the time back in the day. Some great video store memories with this movie. And happy to own it in Blu-ray now. It also stars my buddy, Scream Queen, Linnea Quigley, who's always a blast to watch, and also Amelia Kincaid as Angela, who ends up being a floating demon with a really deep demonic voice. I think my favorite character might have to be Stooge, played by Hal Havens. He's just hilarious. Every line he says is comedic gold. Yeah, he just has so many side-splitting quotes and one-liners. Yeah, Stooge is just really, really funny. One of my favorite horror characters ever. Yeah, the rest of the cast is decent. There's some bad acting here and there. Kathy Podwell, who's basically the main character, her final girl, is kind of wooden at times, and also her younger brother. His performance leaves a lot to be desired, but this movie's still an absolute blast. It's just highly enjoyable. It's impossible to be bored while watching this this late 80s horror gem. Night of the Demons. I love it. So much fun. All right, number 3. Hellbound Hellraiser 2. Now, a lot of people prefer this sequel to the first one, and what is close, I do think the first one's slightly better, but this one's definitely has a bigger budget and is a little more epic and adventurous. This time, Kirsty, played once again by Ashley Lawrence, ventures into hell to supposedly to save her father, but it turns out it might be something else going on. Claire Higgins returns as Julia, her father's wife, and Kirsty's stepmom, is basically the main villain this time around. Of course, Doug Bradley returns as Pinhead, along with the rest of the Cenobites, but and this time they have to face off against Dr. Channard, who becomes an evil Cenobite himself, and ends up kind of being the main antagonist after Julia. Yeah, great special effects, great makeup, great costumes, yeah, great acting, really interesting fantasy-oriented theme. Clive Barker's a genius, and this time he just produced, it was directed by Tony Randall, but of course it's based on Clive Barker's stories and characters. And yeah, it's absolutely great, yeah. He'll tear your soul apart. Again. The horror continues in Hellbound Hellraiser 2, one of the best horror sequels ever. And like I said, though I do slightly prefer the first film, this movie's still a masterpiece in every way. It's great. Check it out. Alright, next we have yet another great sequel. My second favorite 1988 horror movie, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Yeah, he wasn't in part 3, but he returns in this sequel after being burnt to a crisp at the end of part 2, caught and engulfed in flame from an ensuing explosion caused by Dr. Loomis, who also returns in this one, played once again by the great Donald Pleasence. This one was directed by Dwight H. Little, and Michael Myers this time is played by George P. Wilbur. And of course the awesome Halloween theme by John Carpenter is prevalent in this movie too. But this movie introduces Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd. He's probably my second favorite protagonist in the series, next to, of course, Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Curtis from the first two. And later H2O, Resurrection, and 2018, and Halloween Kills, and the upcoming Halloween Ends. But yeah, I really like Danielle Harris. She became a really well-known, really great scream queen and a favorite of mine. And Jamie Lloyd's great character. Donald Pleasence is great as always. Yeah, it's pretty cool kills. This one has a more prevalent Halloween theme, the holiday, I mean. Yeah, you really feel the season shine through just a little more in this one, which is really cool. Yeah, it's pretty nifty kills and just great moments of suspense and stuff. The fact that Michael Myers is going after a young girl this time gives the film a meaner, nastier, more cruel edge for sure. And yeah, great sequel. It's probably my third favorite next to the first two, and it's really, really, really good. Another one of my favorite horror sequels ever. All right, so before we unveil the number one pick, let's get a few honorable mentions out of the way. I've got 10. I'm going to try to get through them quickly. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. This is a step down from part 3, but it's still pretty enjoyable. I do think it's kind of more middle of the road, kind of a mixed bag, but, Robert Englund as Freddy's the star this time. This is pretty much the transition to a complete campy comedic clown. He became the hero of the series pretty much from this point on. But, I can never get tired of watching Robert Englund as Freddy. That's always a good thing in my opinion. Tuesday Night replaces Patricia Arquette as Kristen, and Rodney Eastman and Ken Sago's return as Joey and Kincaid, respectively. The what's left of the Dream Warriors from the previous film. This one was directed by Rennie Harlan, and yes, some of the dream sequences are a little stupid. I think they're kind of running out of ideas from this point, but there's still enough good moments in this film to kind of balance it out. Like I said, it's kind of just a little more mediocre territory, but it's a lot better than 5 and 6, so not quite as good as 1, 3, or even 2 for that matter. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. It also introduced Lisa Wilcox as Alice, who's perhaps my second favorite heroine of the series next to Nancy, played by Heather Langenkamp from parts 1 and 3. But yeah, some pretty cool Freddy one-liners in this one too. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Dream Master. Almost made the list, but not quite. So it's one of the honorable mentions. I also have Fright Night Part 2. Pretty good sequel. Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Yeah, this isn't as good as the first movie. Not even close, but it has its moments. It's, pretty enjoyable nonetheless, though, like I said, it can't compare to the awesome original, which is one of my favorite movies. Serpent and the Rainbow, a different kind of zombie film, directed by the late, great Wes Craven, and starring Bill Pullman. Yeah. Good movie, definitely recommend it. This one almost made the list as well. Sleepway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. This one takes a completely different direction from the scary, suspenseful, shocking original. This one's definitely more of a over-the-top horror comedy with a lot more gore and a more impressive body count and maybe nastier kills, but a lot less depth and substance than the first movie. This one's more, more humorous and more played for laughs and just, but this movie's an absolute blast. It's definitely probably a lot more entertaining, though not quite as sophisticated as the original. This time Pamela Springteen takes over as Angela from, Felissa Rose from the first movie. And she's a lot of fun to watch for sure. Yeah, some pretty cool, gruesome kills and pretty rockin' soundtrack. Yeah, Sleepaway Camp 2 and Happy Campers. This is the last good Sleepaway Camp movie in my opinion, because 3 was okay and 4 was complete crap. Also, 976 Evil, starring Stephen Jeffries as Hoax. Stephen Jeffries, of course, played Evil Ed in Fright Night. Basically, he's a bullied, nerdy outcast who ends up getting possessed, performing a ritual, and by calling that number, that's the title, and getting possessed by demons to get even with his tormentors. And this is directed by Robert Englund. Yeah, Freddy himself directed this movie. I think this is the only movie he directed. And, it's pretty cool. Pretty fun movie. I recommend it. I like that premise. Check it out. Also, Scarecrows. It's a pretty good, creepy, suspenseful flick. I like it a lot. Critters 2, the main course. I don't like this quite as much as the original. But it's decent. It's pretty fun movie. It's definitely more... probably more humorous than the first film, which was a lot darker, and a lot of scenes take place at day. But I do have to sit through a lot of crap to get to the good stuff, unfortunately. But the critters are always fun to watch, as well as the bounty hunters who have come to eradicate the hellish alien creatures. Critters 2, the main course. Pretty good sequel, but nowhere near as good as the first. American Gothic, it's a pretty cool movie. Basically an evil family terrorizing these 6 young friends who are on a weekend getaway and stay at their house, and lots of carnage ensues because these people are just really twisted. I need to review this on my channel, so stay tuned for that for more info. Also, Edge of the Axe, a different kind of slasher film with a. I thought the twist ending was a little far-fetched, but it works. It was fine. I'm happy to finally have this on Blu-ray after all these years of wanting to watch it again from, back then. Pretty good movie. I'll probably review this on my channel pretty soon too, so for my full thoughts, Coming soon. Edge of the Axe. All right, and that's it for the honorable mentions. Now time to reveal the number one choice. Drum roll, please. Of course, it has to be Child's Play. Was there any doubt? Yeah, the first film with Chucky, one of my favorite horror villains ever. Voiced by Brad Dourif, who also plays the human Charles Lee Ray at the beginning. Yeah, Charles Lee Ray's a serial killer who's gunned down by a cop named Mike Norris. Another one of my favorite actors, Chris Sarandon. Yeah, Chris Sarandon and Brad Dourif are great in this movie, as is Catherine Hicks, who plays Karen Barkley, and her son, Andy Barkley, played by Alex Vincent, is the boy who gets the doll, who's possessed by Charles Lee Ray's spirit after transferring his soul into the doll using a voodoo chant after he was fatally shot by Mike Norris. Yeah, great acting, great characters, great suspense. This one's a lot more scary and suspenseful, like I said, than the sequels, and because they kind of play around with the audience. We don't know that Chucky's alive for sure until maybe 40 minutes or so in. Yeah. It's pretty cool kills, not a very high body count, but this is the first movie. It just gets things going. Yeah, it was directed by Tom Holland, who also did Fright Night, which also had Chris Sarandon, and written by Don Mancini, who's basically the creator of Chucky, and he was on board for all the sequels, as well as the recent live-action TV series. But yeah, Child's Play, the beginning of the exciting Chucky saga. Yeah, I love Chucky, and nobody can do his voice quite like Brad Dourif. He's funny and scary, and yeah, it's a great movie. One of my late 80s favorites. Long live Chucky. This is my favorite Chucky movie, too. The original, the first and still the best. Love this movie. It's excellent. One of my all-time favorites. Alright, guys. Well, those were my top 10 horror movies from 1988 with 10 honorable mentions thrown in. So it's basically a top 20, essentially. Be sure to let me know what your favorite 1988 horror movies are in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching my late night spook show here in the Horror and Metal channel. I'm Hellhound. Till next time. Later.